We are back with Edie Carey. Uh, the last song you just heard is called "The Cypress and the Oak." So, uh, you a big fan of the forest?
I do like the forest. I am a fan. Absolutely.
Um, what is it that makes some relationships so mutually beneficial?
I think, it's funny. I wrote The Cypress and the Oak as a commission song for longtime friends of mine for their 20th anniversary. And they sent me the poem from which that comes. And I loved the analogy that these two trees can grow together, and part of why they can grow together is because they let the light in and they both benefit from one another. And I think that the relationships that I have seen that have worked so well is they're the ones where each partner is, celebrating and adoring the things about the other and championing them, and um, just kind of their biggest fan. And it's that it's a mutual exchange. Um, and I think that that's what I really saw in that couple. But when I recorded it, it was much more specific to them. I changed some of the words and I asked them if I could put it on my album and sort of make it a little more universal, because I then wanted to kind of make it sort of a blueprint for what I feel like is a successful relationship. And where each person feels seen and heard, um, and that that the other person's cheering for them, and that they get to grow into their whole self in the context of the relationship, instead of being sort of subsumed in it, that they get to both be their independent selves, which then kind of makes the relationship work really beautifully, I think.
But the roots are tangled. The roots are sort of
Yeah, intertwined, right? They're very connected, but then they are their own whole individuals. And I've seen that in my dad's relationship with my stepmom. They're really best friends who really think the other person is the bee's knees, and it's a really wonderful thing to see. It doesn't mean you don't get annoyed with your person sometimes, of course. Sometimes they don't load the dishwasher the right way. But I think a lot of what that song is about is the service that we are in to support our partners in the little tiny everyday things, but then also seeing them who they as they are, and just adoring them for who they are in the world.
so. I think just thinking about the first couple songs I played, so many of the societal problems you touched on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are living in a culture where we're competing for the sunlight, and
Mm-hmm.
one kind of tree has to have the sunlight, the other one damn well can't. But that's not how a healthy forest works.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely. And that we can have differing opinions, but that we could do it in a loving and supportive way. I live in Colorado Springs, which I don't know how much you know about Colorado Springs, but a lot of people know that it is a fairly conservative town. And I moved here from Chicago 6 years ago, and we lived in Andersonville, which is sort of like the lesbian capital of Chicago, and totally progressive, and it was my kind of place. And then when we moved here, I was like, am I going to be able to find my people? And it's been a really great learning lesson for me to realize, oh yeah, this is sort of a microcosm of our whole country, that you can be around people that you maybe don't totally agree with, but also you realize so many of those beliefs come from whatever life experience we've had. I grew up in very liberal Massachusetts, and being here, I realized, okay, I can see some guy drive by with 15 Trump flags on the back of his truck, and I could feel feelings about that, but then have no idea that then I have a really wonderful exchange with that guy in the bank with his little boy or something, and that I could, it can be the same person, and having just a human to human, really wonderful exchange is a reminder that, like, all of that stuff notwithstanding, we're still just human beings who have whatever feelings we have because we have fears and anxieties about what's happening to the world around us, or needs that have not been met, or whatever that might be. It's just a good reminder that you just don't exactly know what is beyond all of those things. You just have to connect on a more human level. So that has been a good lesson for me. I can have very preconceived notions just like anybody else. And this town has taught me a lot about that.
Well, I'm glad. I'm not sure if fitting in is the right word to use, but I'm glad that you are fitting there comfortably enough.
I am. I've found really wonderful people here who, we just know there's certain things we don't agree on, but I love them as human beings and they love me even if they don't agree with me. And it's a good place to start at least, right?
Yeah, I've always thought, okay, if you can disagree on things, that's one thing. But once you start disagreeing on whether or not the other person can exist or not, then that's when I start to say, no, no,
No.
I can't connect with you on a human level if you're trying to unhuman me.
Yep. Unhuman me. That's really good. You're absolutely right. I think if you start there, there is nowhere to go from there. And I think we all have seen evidence of that when people get together with people who have totally differing views. If they sit down at a table and have a human to human personal conversation, usually you find you have way more in common than you think. And that is a good reminder. But I constantly have to remind myself of that. We all get into our polarized thinking, and I don't feel like that's going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately.
Well, let's hope we find some level of human connection
I hope
before
so.
the veil comes off even further.
Yes. Sometimes we don't want the veil to be lifted on our own selves, too. All the things that we struggle with in our own selves that we wish were different or that are ugly about our own feelings or our own beliefs. That's really what this record is about, is kind of the unveiling of the beautiful things and the hard things and the veil between who we are now and who we used to be. And we think about that and we cringe, and all of those things can be uncomfortable, but worthwhile endeavors if we want to be stronger and more fully formed as people, right?
Absolutely. Edie Carey, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, Trevor. I really appreciate it.